Dieter's finely manicured fingernails made gentle tapping sounds on the side of his tin cheek as he surveyed the state of his desk. Leaning back in his wooden chair, he lit a Turkish cigarette and exhaled. The cloud of smoke curled menacingly in the direction of Herr Keks, a small white cat that was fast asleep on top of a large pile of bills. The bills lay stabbed through the heart with an enormous steel hat pin to stop them escaping into the random piles of paper that were scattered in all directions. He rubbed anxiously at the edges of his face, the place where the tin met the skin. He left the rest of his cheek on a battlefield in Belgium. One moment he was a man in his prime with not unattractive features, and the next minute a violent explosion had blown him off his feet, the skin on his cheek melting away as if it had never existed, leaving him with nothing but a bloody pulp. Now, at nearly 35 years old, Dieter was so very tired of his face. The raw skin was kept hidden away under a tin mask, which was painted with a single brown eye to replace the one he'd lost, his left. Most of his mouth remained intact, but the left edges of his lips had gone too, replaced by a rather strange painted smile. This gave Dieter a peculiar way of speaking, and meant that people never quite knew whether he was really smiling at them, as his metallic brown eye stared blankly, and his painted lips were permanently turned upwards, as if he were privy to an amusing joke that he refused to share. Now, his good eye blinked furiously at both the sleeping cat and the pile of unpaid bills. The cigarette he was smoking made his throat itch, and he coughed, first delicately, and then as if his life depended on removing the smoke from his lungs. Eventually, Dieter leaned forward in the wooden chair, which creaked ominously under his weight, before spitting a small yellow ball of mucus into his empty coffee cup. Herr Keks woke grumpily, jumped down from the desk, raised his tail in a haughty fashion, and disappeared through the open door. The door to Dieter's office was always left ajar, but it was meant only for the cat to come and go, not under any circumstances for people to use, especially women. The girls of the Babylon Circus, with their tears and tantrums, their fights and jealousies. Dieter let out a long, miserable sigh at the thought of them. Dancing girls, singing girls. Why was his life so very difficult? It was, he thought, because he was always surrounded by women. Dieter preferred the company of men. They were less likely to complain or cry. He still shuddered at the memory of the time one of the dancers had sobbed all over his shoulder. He had patted her on the back of her head, with rather less affection than he reserved for Herr Keks when handing him a small piece of fish. Outside his office, Dieter heard a shriek of loud, screeching laughter that he recognized as Berolina. The Babylon Circus employed a range of artistes, mostly sweet singers and girls who might dance with the guests until later on in the evening, when the lights were lowered and the dancers took over the stage. The final part of the night required girls like Berolina, loud, skilled at strangely exotic tricks, and mostly naked. A riptide of amusement echoed once again right outside his office door and on through the dark brown passageway leading down to the dressing room. For reasons that escaped Dieter, given they had a perfectly good room with a door that closed, the corridor was always filled with girls fixing their feathery headdresses or hoisting their silk stockings, smelling of face powder and perfume. Several of the dancers liked to stand around smoking there, although Dieter was sure he had told them 1,000,000 times to go somewhere else and stop cluttering up the passage with their smells and laughter and complaints. They were always complaining. It was too hot or too cold. The customers were too mean or too rough with them. There was never one day where these girls were happy for the entire shift. He coughed again, a light rattling machine gun that ended with nothing except his fist pounding his chest. He wasn't a well man. They could at least afford him a little peace in his life. Dieter adjusted his tin mask again. The edges felt tight today. They irritated him, making his skin red and inflamed. His cough irritated him. Berolina's laughter irritated him. It was too early in the evening to feel this irritated. There was a whole night ahead.